Good afternoon and welcome to my studio. Here today with my Vic Firth drum pad and my Ralph Jr. Vic Firth drumsticks. It's a really nice drumstick for doing a workout, not too light, not too heavy. I'd like to take a minute today to talk about the distinction between ruffs, drags, and how these rudiments are distinct from rolls, and why this is important. First of all, both ruffs and drags are based on what we call grace notes. Grace notes are ornaments or embellishments to a main note, but they're not part of the time. They're not part of the 4 and 4/4. They're not part of the 6 and 6/8. They're not part of the 7 and 7/16. They're not figured in. They're free notes, okay? Now, the drag and the ruff differ in that the ruff utilizes single-stroked grace notes and the drag utilizes double-stroked grace notes. We'll take an example of the 3-stroke ruff. Here we'll notice 2 light grace notes that precede the main note. And this distinguishes from the drag in that the drag will use a double stroke to execute those grace notes into the main note. This is an important distinction to make, and it's important that each one of these rudiments has a specific name that distinguishes it from the other, especially when you're talking to other drummers, but also when you're sending young students in particular into competitions. You don't want them to not really have a clear distinction between a ruff rudiment and a drag rudiment. It causes a crisis moment. This is more unified, more clear when there is a distinct name for each. Now, these rudiments are distinct from the 5-stroke roll in particular, which we'll use from an example, or rolls as an example, because in rolls, the doubles are executed into the single in time. The rolls are counted in time, whereas the grace notes in the ruff and the drag are not. So if I'm counting my 5-stroke roll, 1 yen, 2 yen, 3 yen, 4 yen, 1 yen, 2 yen, 3 yen, 4 yen. Those notes are all part of the 4 and 4/16, part of the 6 and 6/8, and part of the 7 and 7/16. Very important distinctions that we make for our students. Very important that we get clear on this for our students. Thanks for taking the time to do so.